Busy times at the 49ers facility. They have outlined some huge changes. I thought yesterday in talking to Robert Saleh, Brant Boyer, and Clay Kubiak might have enjoyed the most revelatory press conferences that we'd heard in a long time. Plus, the rookies all showed up. But let's just hop into all of the big changes. First, the article up on the San Francisco Standard, it highlights what Robert Saleh said. We'll play a clip from Robert Saleh in just a second. I, though, want to begin this morning's video with Brant Boyer, the 49ers new special teams coordinator who came from the New York Jets. We know that the 49ers special teams unit was the very worst in the league last season. We know that Boyer has a track record of producing really good special teams units. I've advocated for a top-down approach. I think that the mentality on special teams needs to be one of urgency. It can't just be don't lose the game. It has to be go win us the game. The 49ers have to take that phase of the game personally because they were bad at all parts of it. Well, listen to Brant Boyer talk about special teams. Listen to how personally Brant Boyer, the 49ers new special teams coordinator, takes his phase of the game.
Overall mindset, guys. You know, at the end of the day, this is a violent game played by men. And it's a special teams, a one-on-one matchup 90% of the time. And it's either you or him. And what it comes down to, and that's my whole mindset that I'm trying to get these guys to understand is it's either you or me, and it's going to be you, period. And that's the whole mindset that I want these guys to understand, that we're here for them, we're here to make them better, and that's what it comes down to. And if I can make them better, we're all in good shape.
Boyer went on to talk about how he's made a living coaching special teams, how much it means to him, how other guys have made a living coaching special teams. Boyer was also a special teamer in the NFL, and he wants the 49ers to subscribe to that philosophy. He doesn't want guys to be like, oh, God, I have to play special teams here. He wants players to be excited about that third phase of the game, because the reality is at the NFL level, the rosters are not very big, right? You've got 53 on the active roster, 46 plus 2 on the game day roster, if that second one is a lineman. And that means that guys are going to have to play special teams, even if some of them have regular positions in the starting lineup on offense or defense. It just works out that way. It's one of those things where you have your core players who are exempt really from special teams, your Fred Warners, your George Kittles. Those guys get to do their own positional work on the side during warmups. But a lot of regular players have to go into those special teams drills. And if the morale or the attitude of some of those guys isn't quite what you want it to be, that phase of the game could really struggle. And I think that the 49ers, we try to point fingers at what exactly on special teams has been the problem, but it's like 7 or 8 different things. So the top-down approach is the only one that could possibly cover everything. So that was from Brant Boyer on the 49ers special teams unit. Then we heard from Robert Saleh. Let's listen to Robert Saleh talk right now. This is in response to my question, which you will hear, regarding defensive changes for the 49ers and a defensive evolution for the 49ers. Because I think that in the larger scheme of things, we're going to see defensive strategy, offensive strategy change every year, and it definitely needs to change for the 49ers. The way that Robert Saleh outlined it yesterday, though, I thought was a concise illustration of where the 49ers have come from since 2017 and a good way to set up where they might go next with Robert Saleh version 2.0 here in 2025 and beyond.
First stint here, there was so much talk, especially after they signed Sherm, about tall corners, and obviously I think the high profile seems to have changed. Has the scheme changed a little bit to where that 6'1" to 6'3" corner may no longer be the exact prototype anymore?
It was that, you're right, in 17 and 18, and then as we evolved, 19, there was a major shift in the way we did things. So when we first got here, we installed the Seattle system as I learned it. And then as a staff, we kind of evolved. We brought in the wide 9, and We started implementing some quarters, and then our third down pressure package completely changed. And so the profile has changed at all three levels. I'm not going to detail out what those profiles are, but over the course of the last, call it 9 years, it's changed significantly.
So that 2019 inflection point, fascinating. By the way, we're only allowed to put 90 seconds of these interviews up on the channel. So those are the 90 seconds that I currently used right there. We heard from Brant Boyer, we heard from Robert Saleh, and I could talk a lot more about what they said here, and I'll have to obviously paraphrase, or in some cases I can quote these guys directly. It's a good reason to sign up for the San Francisco Standard, because this is where you're going to get all of the Robert Saleh quotes from his press conference, all of the important Brant Boyer quotes from his press conference. That article is up on the description, and we later try to put it up on top of the comment section as well. So best time to sign up for the best 49ers coverage is right now. Membership of this channel, obviously also a subscription to the San Francisco Standard will have you all set up. But Saleh there talking about the 49ers evolution, especially in the year 2019. I always look back at 2019. It was such a massive inflection point in what the 49ers have built to this day and what's reattracted Saleh to come back to San Francisco in 2025. Think about 2017 and 2018 and the struggles the 49ers went through in those 2 years. 2017 was the 0-9 start, maybe 0-8. They lost a whole lot of games before they won one. They beat the New York Giants. Still remember that. C.J. Beathard to Marquise Goodwin. Then the 49ers got Jimmy Garoppolo into the starting lineup, and they won 5 straight. So it helped things for a bit in 2017. They finished 6-10, but it was obviously still a talent-depleted team and a talent-depleted defense. 2018, things got a little bit better talent-wise, but not at the spots that were going to make a true difference, not along that edge rusher position up front. That wouldn't be until 2019. And in 2018, because of a lot of injuries, the wheels came off the wagon, and the defense actually regressed in 2018. So Robert Saleh was sitting there after 2018 as a defensive coordinator, 2 years of experience under his belt, and both years had fielded a below average defense, and the defense had gotten technically worse in the second year. He talked about this yesterday. He said that, they could have easily moved on from me after 2018, but this organization believed in me, and they realized that I needed some talent to get the job done. I think that was something that a lot of social media ignored at the time. And the 49ers did go out and procure that talent ahead of the 2019 season. So you had Nick Bosa drafted. You had Dee Ford come over from Kansas City via the trade. And, he was electric when he was healthy for the 49ers. Between him and Bosa, the 49ers had 2 difference makers at the edge rusher position that made a night and day difference from 2018 to 2019. Fred Warner matured into his second year with the 49ers. He was a rookie in 2018, actually changed numbers. We have the numbers of the rookies at today's minicamp, by the way. I could go through some of those in a second. But Warner, I think 2019 was the year that he put on the 5'4". What was he, the 40? Yeah, he was 48 in 2018. That's some trivia for you. You guys remember Fred Warner wearing the 48 his first year? He forced a fumble in his first game against the Minnesota Vikings in 2018. Anyway, I digress. I could talk about epic Fred Warner plays until Sunday here, but don't worry, this show won't last that long. I think in 2019, he had the pick 6 of Jared Goff. That was a lot of fun for the 49ers. But what you heard Saleh say is that the changes that came because they had more talent in that 2019 season. They were able to run the wide 9 defensively. They brought in Chris Kasarik. They changed their third down pressure packages completely, and they ran a lot more quarters on the back end, coverage-wise. Quarters, that's what helped the Philadelphia Eagles just completely decimate the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Well, the 49ers defense took another step up when they began applying quarters coverage on top of the cover 3 in 2019. There was a massive evolution of the defense from 2018 to 2019, and that led to the incarnation of the 49ers defense that we see today, a defense that we're that we saw before 2024, the back half of it. The defense that was very respected around the league from 2019 to the first half of 2024, a defense that was really tough to go up against, except for blips here and there when there were growing pains, new coordinator, this and that. Obviously, the Steve Wilks back half of the 2023 season with some of the struggles against the run. That was brutal for San Francisco. It's why they made the change away from Wilks, and then ultimately the same reasons why they made the change away from Nick Sorensen. They stopped stymieing the run, and that's something that they have to get back to in 2024 or 2025. But when we study how the defense reached its modern form of dominance in the first place, with Saleh evolving in 2019, we can talk about the changes the 49ers plan to make here in 2025. And Saleh, I talk about it all up on the Standard. He, in New York, actually blitzed a little bit more in a couple of his seasons because he had to, because the league changes, his personnel changed, and he wasn't a big-time blitzer when he was with the 49ers, but he has shown the ability to call more blitzes, to raise that blitz rate from the bottom three of the league to somewhere in the middle of the pack. Is that going to be the answer for the 49ers? Maybe. I think when DeMeco Ryans came in to replace Saleh in 2021 and 2022, one thing that was a very positive change for the 49ers was the selective pressure packages that DeMeco evolved into himself. I mean, early on, DeMeco wasn't the best coordinator the first few games of 2021. Down the stretch, he found his stride. K'Waun Williams, the Shark Blitz. That was something that won the 49ers a game, like a really important game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Had a very, very nice blitz coming in from the slot from K'Waun Williams. I think they want to do more of the same moving forward. They talk about Upton Stout, the third-round pick out of Western Kentucky, 5'8", 181-pound ball of muscle. They talk about him being a really good blitzer near the line of scrimmage. Nick Martin, I think, is a really good blitzer as well. Speaking of the Shark, he wore Shark slippers yesterday. I mean, while we're on that, I got to get Mike, can you send me the picture of Nick Martin wearing Shark slippers? I tweeted it yesterday. So, I mean, you have all these connections to the past, and you can see how the 49ers are going to change some of their strategy into the future. The defense last year, schematically, was just not on an NFL competitive level toward the end of the season, which is why the 49ers moved from Nick Sorensen and did what they had to bring back one of the best minds in the game on the defensive side of the ball in Robert Saleh. So, I think that Saleh is obviously not going to detail exactly what the 49ers are going to do, in large part because some of the stuff he can't really even say right now because you don't know what precisely the offenses are going to bring against the 49ers in 2025. But the most fascinating comment yesterday, and Saleh had never said this during his first run with the 49ers, but the comment was that he likes to stay 2 years ahead of opposing offenses. So right now, the 49ers are already plotting based on what they think offenses are going to challenge them with in 2025. And I think that it's not really rocket science at this point. The teams are going to try to test the 49ers' ability to stop the run because that's what they were bad at last year. So that's what San Francisco should be ready to face immediately once this 2025 season starts. Get ready for a lot of running from opposing teams and some creative rushing attacks to see if the 49ers are still as bad of a run defense as they were in 2024. The minute that the 49ers can slow that is when they can start having some fun defensively. Stop the run, have some fun. Saleh was able to limit the opposing run game at an impressive level back when he was the 49ers defensive coordinator. I will say that in 2017, throughout most of that season, even though the 49ers were devoid of defensive talent, they actually had a top 10 run defense. So they built the structure of the defense really well. The yards per play that they gave up in those years was not bad either. They just weren't a ball-hawking, superstar-laden defense yet. They weren't getting the sacks they needed to. They didn't have the knockout punch capability that they would deliver in 2019. But the whole thing was based on the foundation of stopping the run. Because if you can't do that, then the whole defense is going to crumble. So that's what Robert Saleh has to get the 49ers back to in 2025. I promised the rookie numbers, so we'll go to some of the rookie numbers here. We go through the draft picks to begin. Curtis Rourke, who won't be out on the practice field participating today. He's recovering from the knee surgery. Quarterback out of Indiana is going to wear number 4. Isaiah Nayer, this is an undrafted free agent, one of the best athletes in the entire 2025 draft class. Wide receiver out of Nebraska will be wearing number 14. His wide receiver counterpart, Jordan Watkins, draft pick out of Ole Miss, will be wearing number 17. Upton Stout, nickelback, number 20. It's a good number for Upton. Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon. This is an unorthodox number, number 29. Marquise Siegel, safety out of Kansas State. He's going to be wearing number 36. Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State, 45. Corey Kiner. Oh, Corey Kiner gets the 49. The 49 is what the 49ers give typically an undrafted free agent running back, last year they gave it to Isaac Guerendo. It's a motivational number, right? So it's 49 on the 49ers. Some people say, oh yeah, you should want to wear that, but typically running backs like to be in the 30s or the 20s. And last year, Bobby Turner told Isaac Guerendo, if you do what you're supposed to over the course of this offseason, once the roster's cut down to 53 players, you'll get the number that you want. And Isaac Guerendo ended up with number 31, but he wore the 49 earlier. Now, there's other guys who wore the 49 with a lot of pride and ended up making the roster as well. Matt Breida, undrafted free agent, unlike Guerendo, the draft value obviously a little bit lower there. Guerendo was a 4th-round pick, but Matt Breida in 2017 wore the 49. And he wore it with pride. And now you see Corey Kiner, the undrafted free agent out of Cincinnati. He's going to get the famous 49, the Bobby Turner 49. CJ West, the defensive tackle, wearing number 50. Connor Colby, the offensive lineman out of Iowa, number 75. Junior Bergen out of Montana. That's Brant Boyer's guy. Brant Boyer's son kicks at Montana, and I think that's really how they discovered Junior Bergen, their final draft pick. Bergen's going to be wearing number 86. Michael Williams, number 98. Alfred Collins, 99. So the two defensive linemen there at the end, 98, 99. CJ West, meanwhile, number 50 for the 49ers. I have the full roster up on my social media page, so we can take a look at that in a little bit. Maybe I can toss that up on the screen. So we talked Saleh, we talked Boyer. I think offensively, Clay Kubiak was the man of the hour yesterday. He's the 49ers' new offensive coordinator. There aren't going to be play calling changes for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is still calling plays. He's technically the one that has that responsibility. That won't change. That shouldn't change. People think that would be some kind of magic pill for the 49ers to take. Newsflash, it wouldn't be. And in fact, all healthy organizational structures in the NFL right now, I think, are built around an offensive play caller as the head coach, because then the Detroit Lions are going to struggle with this year. You can mark my words. The Detroit Lions lost their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. They lost their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. And since Dan Campbell doesn't call plays on either side of the ball, he's a motivational guy, and he has done a really good job as the CEO of the Lions, but he's got to replace both of those coordinators moving forward, and that is not going to be easy to absorb for the Detroit Lions, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Continuity is so important in this league, and Kyle Shanahan, in the position that he's at, is able to foster a healthy continuity for the 49ers. So when you look at the power structure offensively, the 49ers have done this now twice. They have promoted one of Kyle Shanahan's key lieutenants to offensive coordinator 2 times. First time it happened was in 2021 with Mike McDaniel. Second time it's happened is here in 2025 with Clay Kubiak. So this is not something that the 49ers give out like candy, the OC title. You have to be a trusted lieutenant of Kyle Shanahan to earn this role. And I put emphasis on the word trust. He obviously trusted Mike McDaniel enough to where McDaniel elevated to a role where he had a ton of input, maybe even some veto power, nominally veto power. Obviously, Shanahan's still the boss, but maybe a higher level of power, higher level of trust in the offensive hierarchy to where he was named offensive coordinator. I think the 49ers can use that. I think that Kyle Shanahan is a great play caller. I think anybody who says that he's not a great play caller probably isn't really charting or understanding what they're talking about. But everybody has their human biases. Everybody has their tendencies that can result in negative outcomes. And as a head coach, Kyle Shanahan is dealing with a ton. All head coaches are. There's many administrative duties. And on the field, you've got to make sure that you're at least keeping an eye on the defense and the special teams as well. You're not just the offensive play caller. So you can really get sucked into a black hole when so many things are going on around you and you're trying to call a balanced game. I think a great example is when the 49ers were playing the Detroit Lions last year and they ended up calling something like, was it 16 or 17 straight pass plays? They kept on dropping back. They never once pivoted to a run. And when that happens, then safeties on the other team, your Kirby Josephs, your Brian Branches, the opposing safeties are going to be able to zero in on the quarterback's eyes. They don't have to worry about play action. They don't have to worry about, outside zone, inside zone, power run, whatever. And we saw the result last year. It led to a couple interceptions for the Detroit Lions late in that game. I think that when you have a healthy competing voice structure within the offensive brain trust, you can avoid going down those dark alleys and you could stay balanced and, things can be much more optimal from a play calling perspective offensively. And I think that the 49ers, when they had Mike McDaniel elevated to that offensive coordinator position, that was a reflection of the trust Shanahan had in him. And I thought that brought out the best in Shanahan. And I think the fact that Clay Kubiak has risen to that offensive coordinator position now, I think that can bring out the very best in Shanahan again in 2025. Because there's a lot of things. There were a lot of blind spots for the 49ers last year. I talk about it, it wasn't a fastball season for Kyle Shanahan. It was a year where San Francisco neglected the screen game. I think they were thrown off by the fact that they didn't have their usual personnel due to injuries. I think the Christian McCaffrey injury really threw the 49ers off last year. They didn't have the screen game. They went down passing rabbit holes. They panicked, I think, because, maybe panic is too strong of a word, but there was a reactionary slide for the 49ers because the defense was so bad. So when the defense and the special teams were both so bad for the 49ers in 2025 or 24, they had to play a lot of hero ball. They had to drop back a ton. They had to try to come back in some of these games. They also weren't running the football as well without McCaffrey and with some of the other issues that they had last year. The first down run efficiency was number 20. So they were constantly behind game script. And because of that, the offense was out of sorts. I thought there was a lot of pressing. And, it all led to the position that we've talked about a lot, to Kyle Shanahan and the offense and the team as a whole not having its best season in 2024. So when you talk about changes in 2025 for the 49ers, they are all rooted around the return of Christian McCaffrey. Because if you have McCaffrey back, well, then your first down run efficiency is going to be better. You're going to be running more screen passes. Even if they're not going to McCaffrey, that opens up other levels of the field. The separation was so bad for the 49ers last year, in large part because they didn't have McCaffrey, and obviously in large part because Brandon Ayuk was hurt. So they've had to revamp the receiver room, and they may not be done there yet. Amari Cooper is still a free agent, but we're going to get to take a look at Jordan Watkins for the first time today. I'm also excited to see Isaiah Nair, the undrafted free agent out of Nebraska. What an athlete, 6'5", 6'4", I think. Yeah, 6'4", 218, 220, 4.40, 40. If you're looking to improve your separation, go get some guys who can run 4.40 40s He's got some big size too that maybe could win some jump balls. But, they're revamping the receiver room. They are obviously banking on better health for Christian McCaffrey, a good second-year jump from Isaac Guerrero. And there is, I think, just a natural expectation that if those things happen, and Clay Kubiak was talking about this yesterday, that this offense can be in a much healthier position on a down-in, down-out basis, facing 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 8, 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6. This offense can be on a better platform to succeed than it was many times in 2024. Now, a lot of the issue for San Francisco last year, again, did circle back to the defense and special teams. Brant Boyer said it best yesterday. You've got to win 2 of 3 phases in this league. So you're playing the Seahawks. If you beat them on offense and defense, but still struggle on special teams, you're probably going to win the game. If you beat them on offense and special teams, but still struggle defensively, you're probably going to win the game. If you win 2 of those 3 phases, things will be fine. But once you start losing 2 of 3 phases, that's when it becomes problematic. Last year, the 49ers in general lost 2 of 3 phases. They lost defense. They lost special teams. They generally won on offense last year. Generally, I mean, one of the lights out offense. They had many, many problems on that side of the ball as well. But they generally won there. They were an above average offense in the final tally, but it was defense and special teams that were going to require the biggest changes of all. Now, when we play the Robert Saleh clip, and I'm allowed to play it again because this is the same clip, but when we do play it, and I'm going to pop this open on the screen right now, he talks about the 49ers evolution primarily from 2018 to 2019, and then he hints at the evolution moving forward beyond that. Let's listen to Saleh talk again about this evolution, and then let's spin it forward to the 2025 season.
First stint here, there was so much talk, especially after they signed Sherm, about tall corners, and obviously I think the high profile seems to have changed. Has the scheme changed a little bit to where that 6'1" to 6'3" corner may no longer be the exact prototype anymore?
It was that, you're right, in 17 and 18, and then as we evolved, 19, there was a major shift in the way we did things. So when we first got here, we installed the Seattle system as I learned it, and then as a staff, we kind of evolved. We brought in the wide 9, and we started implementing some quarters, and then our 3rd down pressure package completely changed, and so the profile has changed at all 3 levels. I'm not going to detail out what those profiles are, but over the course of the last, call it 9 years, it's changed significantly.
So the changes that they made in 2019 were obviously banner changes, marquee changes, effective changes for the 49ers. What comes next is the question. And, I look at the fact that they drafted, and this is why I asked the question that I did. I know that they went to quarters and a lot of variance happened in 2019, but now we're looking at the polar opposite, who they drafted. Upton Stout, I get it, nickel back, so a little bit shorter, but you look at the profiles of Renardo Green and Diomede Lenoir, also 2 corners who aren't overly big, but they got that scrappiness in them. Nick Martin, linebacker, is even smaller than somebody like Dre Greenlaw, but all these guys have speed. All these guys play with real violence. All these guys are run and hit players. They're still dead set on having a big defensive line, tall defensive line. I mean, we talk about Mykel Williams' power. I think one of the ways that he generates true power is through his length. I mean, Mykel Williams is able to he also bats down some passes, but the sheer length, the arm length is great. Alfred Collins, I mean, if you want to talk about length, the 2nd round pick out of Texas brings that to the defensive tackle position. It's what the 49ers once had in Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. I don't think Williams is as tall as Armstead, but Alfred Collins is as tall as DeForest Buckner. So they're going still for the size and the length up front defensively, but they're getting even smaller and just more vicious and more aggressive on the back end. And I don't think these are accidents. I think that Robert Saleh would verify that these are not accidents. He obviously isn't going to get into the schematic nitty-gritty of how the 49ers are going to use these players, but we can put 2 and 2 together. We can see that they play a lot of zone. That's something that John Lynch said over the course of the NFL draft. And with that zone, they're going to want a pocket-pushing power presence up front with their defensive line. And they're going to, if that pocket constricts, it's going to force the quarterback to release the ball to his underneath options. You want fast defenders, agile, fast defenders who like to punish ball carriers and receivers on the back end to clean up the mess that should exist, that the mess that the 49ers defensive line creates. You want to create a messy situation with a collapsing pocket based on the power rush. And then you need to have, you can call them shutter bugs. I don't know what you want to call them on the back end, but just really fast, smaller guys, but physical guys. I can't emphasize enough. Physicality is the important part of the cocktail here. That's why they've got all these guys who could bench a lot on the back end. You want these physical guys to swarm the football and make the tackles. So it's, cover 3 was his own coverage, the Seattle style cover 3 that the 49ers played, but it was very dependent on having those very big, powerful, just smothering cornerbacks on the edges. Now the 49ers have moved to more of a speed burst approach in the secondary. And that's what Robert Saleh is going to be coaching with. And, we have to take the historical context. We have to take the fact that they did make those big changes from 2018 to 2019, and we have to apply it forward. And we have to look at the personnel that the 49ers have been able to acquire, and we study how they're going to apply it to the team here in 2025. So I think you'd very happy that you have Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator when you're undergoing the defensive renovation that the 49ers are undergoing. Now, this is a big defensive renovation, but it's not an extensive, it wasn't a teardown that the 49ers did defensively. The teardown would have involved no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner, no Deommodore Lenoir, no Renardo Green, no Malik Mustafa. They have players who are pillars, especially veteran pillars between Bosa, Warner, and Lenoir, who are there to be the guideposts, the foundational pillars of each level of the defense. So when the first question to Robert Saleh, one of the first 2 yesterday was, does this remind you at all of 2017? And he said, no. The talent is just on such a higher level now than it was in 2017. There was no Bosa then. There was no Fred Warner then. So when Saleh first built this was still much more of a ground up thing. They had to build the foundation in 2017. He already has the foundation now. Now it's about filling it in properly, and that's a lot easier to do. There's a big difference between having to find the next Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Deommodore Lenoir versus finding the starters who can plug in next to those guys. Huge difference in those two things. Teams covet the A-list players at all times. They're willing to trade huge amounts of draft capital for A-list players. They're willing to pay massive amounts of money to extend A-list players. The 49ers have done that with all 3 on the back end, with Nick Bosa, with Fred Warner, and Deommodore Lenoir. Those are hard players to come by in the NFL. So once you have them, you're in good position. It's about finding the supporting talent, the window dressing that is so important. Now, I still think the 49ers could use 1 or 2 more pillars defensively to make this a truly great team and a truly great defense. And, one of them might have to come along the interior of the defensive line. So they drafted 2 guys there, Alfred Collins and CJ West. I think maybe one can come at the bookends to Nick Bosa. That's why they drafted Mykel Williams. Maybe all 3 of those guys pan out and you've got a truly great defensive line. The law of averages when it comes to the NFL draft says that, it's unlikely that all 3 will become superstar players. But maybe you get one out of that group that truly becomes a stalwart. And even that will allow the 49ers to take a massive, massive step forward on the defensive side of the ball. Linebacker level, we know that the second linebacker has been so big for this defense. Dre Greenlaw alongside Fred Warner. Well, now can Nick Martin do that? Or is D Winters going to step up into that role this year? Can you get triumvirate? Can you get Warner, Nick Martin, and D Winters delivering at a big level if you're the 49ers? Those are all questions to ponder as the 49ers move into this rookie minicamp today. I can go through some of the names at rookie minicamp as far as tryouts go today. I'm going to be headed down to Santa Clara in a little bit right after this. And we can see here, I just tweeted the 49ers roster for today. The only kicker invited today is Kenny Almendarez, but there also will be a punter there today, Jack Browning out of San Diego State. So Almendarez is going to vie to become the competition for Jake Moody. If he doesn't make the team, if the 49ers don't sign Kenny Almendarez, then they will look to sign a veteran, and that's going to be the kicking competition for Moody over the course of this offseason. Ollie Jennings III, who is a receiver out of Virginia Tech, is going to be out there on a tryout basis. Money Parks, a receiver out of Utah, 5'9" receiver out of Utah, will be there on a tryout basis. Nick Osmo, this is another Montana guy. So this could be a Brant Boyer connection. Running back out of Montana, Nick Osmo, 221 pounds, will be there. Ed Woods, Michigan State cornerback, 6 feet, 181 pounds. Kobe Savage, 5'10", 209 pound safety out of Oregon, where the 49ers have a lot of connections, will be trying out today. So will James Burgess Jr., who is a cornerback out of Alabama State. SMU safety Jonathan McGill was going to be out there. That's a 5'10", 186 pound safety. A lot of safeties trying out today, including Trey Jenkins out of San Jose State, Jack Howell out of Colorado State. Couple tight ends trying out, Mark Mahoney from Brown and Bentley Hanshaw from Liberty. There'll be a long snapper there, Jordan Silver from Arkansas. 49ers signed a veteran line snapper in John Weeks this offseason. 2 linebackers, one from Alabama Birmingham, Michael Moore, tall linebacker, 6'4", 228, and then a Stanford product, Tristan Sinclair, 6'1", 229. And the third linebacker here is Ty French, 6'1", 224 out of West Virginia. 3 offensive linemen will be Jacob Gideon, Micah Maskua, and Marcus Ware out of West Virginia, Western Michigan, and Nebraska, respectively. Actually, out of Western Michigan, Nebraska, and Montana State, respectively. Then there's Elijah Hills, defensive lineman out of Wisconsin, who's going to be there. So those are the tryouts. They're going to mix in with the 49ers rookies. And then there's also going to be second-year players who have not yet played in an actual NFL game. They're eligible to be part of this rookie minicamp. So Tanner Mordecai, the quarterback, is going to be there for the 49ers. He might be the only QB. He'll probably be the only. No, he and Hank Bachmeier, who is a quarterback trying out from Wake Forest, will be the 2 quarterbacks today at rookie minicamp. So Mordecai, he seemed to develop into a little bit of a fan favorite last year following a decent showing in the preseason. He'll be out on that field, along with all the 49ers rookies, plus some of those second-year guys. So just looking up and down the list, Mason Pline, the tight end, is going to be a participant. Deshaun White, who was on the practice squad for the 49ers last year at linebacker, will also participate today. So will Drake Nugent. He is the center out of Michigan who was on the practice squad last year. A lot of people asking about Drake Nugent. Tariq Owens is going to be out there as one of the wide receivers because he was on the practice squad. He has developed over the course of a season. So we're going to get a look at him, plus the 17 rookies whom the 49ers have brought in. So those are all part of the big changes that the 49ers are undergoing. This rookie class, Robert Saleh said it yesterday, if any of the rookies proves worthy, they'll be playing week 1. I think the 49ers need at least a handful of them to prove worthy because, it's no joke. The 49ers had some roster holes entering the NFL draft. They had to modernize this year. They had to get younger. They had to get hungrier. And that put a lot of pressure on this draft class. Now, the good news is that the 2024 draft class came through for the 49ers. It seems that they nailed down a legitimate process in 2024. So if that process yields positive results again, if it sets the 49ers up for more success, then 2025 can also be a solid haul for the 49ers. And if it is, then the modernization that was needed for this roster can take a big step forward. Talked about it all, including that really good Robert Saleh quote up on the San Francisco Standard right here. This is in the description. If you're constantly on the move or just tired of skipping meals, Huel has you covered. They are today's sponsor, spelled Huel, and their Black Edition ready to drink is a total game changer. It's a complete meal in one bottle with 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber and low sugar, so you feel full, focused, and ready for your day. No prep, no cleanup, just grab and go. Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now's it's your turn to try it. New customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use my code Lombardi. Don't miss out. Try it today. That's 15% off plus a free gift for new customers using my exclusive code Lombardi at Huel.com. That is Huel.com. Please see our description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. Huel. Great stuff. Check it out. All right, I'm going to take a few questions here before I have to head down to Santa Clara. Smash that like button from Chuck down in the 559. Edward thinks that both offensive linemen whom the 49ers have signed as rookies, or I don't think they've technically signed Connor Colby yet, but they drafted him and they signed Drew Moss, thinks they should both make the team. I think that they've got good run blocking film, both of those guys. I think both will have to develop as pass protectors, but that's what practice is for. I think the 49ers have seen a lot of athleticism in both guys that leads them to believe they can develop into very solid offensive line NFL players. Mike says the 49ers cleaning up this defense now is perfect timing before Nick Bosa and Fred Warner get too old. Yes, you modernize now. You take a bunch of swings in the draft now because you're not just swinging for the window dressing. You're swinging for the next pillar pieces, the next foundational pillars. Some guys will become good B-list players and they'll play out their rookie contracts with the 49ers and they'll be productive players. But you hope that you strike gold with at least one of these guys, right? One guy per draft would be amazing if you could strike gold with one guy per draft, because if that happens, you've got the A-list foundational piece or pieces to eventually succeed Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. So it's a numbers game, and that's why the 49ers like amassing more draft picks than anybody else, because they realize you can find an A-lister anywhere in the draft. Brock Purdy was picked 262. Fred Warner was a third rounder. Diamaro Lenore was a fifth rounder. Out of all these foundational pieces that we talk about for the 49ers, whom they drafted themselves, I think it's only Nick Bosa who was a truly premier pick at number 2 overall. So more draft picks, the better. And Robert Saleh talked about it a lot yesterday in the article up on the Standard. He talked about the fact that the 49ers draft so well in the later rounds, and undrafted free agency works for them too because of the collaboration. He says it's unusual. The coaching staff collaboration with the scouting department for the 49ers, he said, is a step above other buildings. I think it's worth listening to Saleh's perspective because he's been outside the 49ers building and now he's come back into San Francisco's building. So he knows, he's seen the rest of the football world. Art understands how to build a team. If the 49ers get the same production from these rookies as some of the B-list players that were released, it does save money. I said, well, not just saves money, it allows you to be salary cap compliant in the big picture, because if your A-list core continues getting more expensive, as you want it to get more expensive, means that those guys are playing like A-list players. The money's got to come from somewhere, right? So it allows you to build a sustainable team under the salary cap. Do we have any good questions down here? Any more? Saul is going to give the defense a ferocious identity. It's possible. It's what the 49ers hope. He thinks that because he has some rookies to work with, he could really get that all gas, no brakes mantra working for the 49ers. All right, guys, I got to head down to Santa Clara. We're getting going there in just a little bit. It's going to be practice out on the field today. And also, I think we're going to talk to a few more rookies before practice starts. That's all going to be exciting start. That's all going to be exciting stuff today. Our first look at a lot of these guys in a 49ers uniform. All right, guys, everybody take care. We will see you soon.